You're standing in the middle of nowhere. Your phone is dead. No GPS. No rescue coming. No one even knows you're missing. What do? Most of us would panic. But a cowboy from 1880? He'd just shrug and get to work because he knew something we've completely forgotten. See, we think cowboys were just tough guys on horses. But that's not the real story. These men survived in conditions that would break most modern humans in less than 48 hours. And they did it without a single piece of technology we consider essential today. What they understood wasn't just about survival. It was about something deeper, something we desperately need to remember. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see your own life completely differently. The lie we've been told. Let's start with the biggest lie Hollywood ever sold us about cowboys. That they were fearless. They weren't fearless. They were terrified, constantly. Think about their reality for a second. You're 3 days' ride from the nearest town. A rattlesnake bite means you're probably dead. A broken leg means you're definitely dead. A storm means you could lose everything. Your horse goes lame, you might not make it home. But here's what they understood that we don't. Fear isn't the problem. Running from fear is. Modern survival advice tells us to stay calm. Cowboys knew that was impossible. Instead, they learned to work while afraid, to make decisions while their hands were shaking, to think clearly while their heart was pounding. They had a saying, "Scared money don't make money." It meant that if you let fear control you, you'd already lost. We've forgotten this. We think we need to conquer our fear before we can act. So we wait. We hesitate. We prepare endlessly, but never move. A cowboy would say, that's no way to live. The 3-mile rule. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Cowboys rarely traveled more than 3 miles from water. Not because they were weak, because they were smart. They understood something we've completely lost in our modern world, the difference between independence and self-reliance. We think being independent means needing no one and nothing, having all the answers, being totally self-sufficient. Cowboys knew that was a fantasy. Self-reliance meant knowing your limits. It meant understanding exactly what you needed to survive and staying within range of it. Water wasn't just water, it was life. So you respected it. You planned around it. You never got cocky about it. Look at how we live now. We're independent because we can have anything delivered to our door. But what happens when that system breaks? When the power goes out? When supply chains fail? We panic. Because we're not self-reliant. We're dependent on systems we don't understand and can't control. Cowboys built their entire lives around things they could control. They didn't venture far from water because they respected reality. They didn't pretend they could conquer nature. They learned to work with it. This wasn't weakness. This was wisdom. Reading what isn't there. Want to know the most valuable skill a cowboy had? It wasn't shooting. It wasn't riding. It wasn't even roping. It was reading sign. A good cowboy could look at disturbed grass and tell you how many horses passed through, how long ago, and whether they were running or walking. He could read the sky and know if a storm was 6 hours away or 60 minutes. He could watch his horse's ears and know if a predator was nearby before he ever saw it. They called it reading what isn't there, because the most important information was never obvious. It was in the details everyone else missed. Now here's what's crazy. We've completely lost this ability. We stare at screens that tell us everything explicitly. GPS tells us exactly where to go. Weather apps tell us if it'll rain. If we want to know something, we just Google it. But what happens when the information you need isn't available? When you have to figure it out yourself? Most people freeze, because we've outsourced our observation skills to technology. Cowboys understood that survival meant paying attention to everything. The angle of the sun, the behavior of animals, the smell of the air, the feel of the wind. They noticed details because their lives depended on it. And here's the thing, our lives still depend on it. We've just convinced ourselves they don't. The tool you can't lose. Every cowboy carried a knife. Always. Even when they didn't carry a gun. Why? Because a knife could do everything. Start a fire, build shelter, prepare food, make tools, defend yourself, signal for help. The list goes on forever. But here's what really matters. A knife forced you to know how to use it. You couldn't just press a button. You had to understand material, physics, technique. Every time you used your knife, you were learning something. Compare that to now. We have specialized tools for everything. A tool to open wine, a different tool to open cans, another one for boxes, When something breaks, we don't fix it. We throw it away and buy another one. Cowboys would find this insane. They understood that the fewer tools you needed, the more capable you were. Because true capability isn't about having the right tool. It's about knowing how to solve problems with whatever you have. This is why modern people feel so helpless when things go wrong. We've been trained to believe that for every problem, there's a specific solution you need to buy. Cowboys knew better. They knew that creativity and knowledge were worth more than any tool. If you're finding value in this, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to go deeper into skills that could literally save your life one day. The fire that never goes out. Here's a question. How long would it take you to start a fire without matches or a lighter? For most people, the answer is never, or maybe after hours of trying. A cowboy could do it in 5 minutes. In the rain? But that's not even the impressive part. The impressive part is what fire meant to them. Fire wasn't just warmth. It was community, safety, home. Every cowboy knew that the first thing you did when you made camp was start a fire. Not just for cooking, not just for heat, but because fire was a statement. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm not giving up. They understood something profound. The things that keep you alive are the same things that keep you human. We've lost this connection. We flip a switch and get heat, turn a knob and get flame. We don't think about fire anymore. It's just there. But fire taught cowboys patience. You can't rush a fire. You have to prepare properly, use the right materials, build it correctly, maintain it constantly. And here's the deeper lesson. Everything worth having works the same way. Relationships, skills, health, wealth. You can't rush them. You have to build them properly, maintain them constantly, respect the process. Cowboys learned this from fire every single night. What are we learning from flipping switches? The math that saves lives. Cowboys couldn't do complex math. Most could barely read, but they understood numbers better than most modern people because their numbers mattered. They knew exactly how much water a horse needed per day, how much food they had to make it to the next town, how many hours of daylight were left, how long they could survive without sleep. These weren't abstract calculations. This was life and death map. And here's what's interesting. They were always calculating, always measuring, always planning. Not because they were anxious, because they were responsible. Look at how we handle numbers now. We have no idea how much money is really in our bank accounts. We don't know how much food is in our house. We couldn't tell you how many gallons of gas we have or how far that'll take us. We've outsourced all the counting to computers. And in doing so, we've lost the habit of paying attention to what actually matters. Cowboys knew that survival meant constantly taking inventory of supplies, of energy, of time, of options. This wasn't paranoia. This was awareness. And the crazy thing is, this same skill made them better at everything else. Better at business, better at relationships, better at decisions. Because when you practice paying attention to what matters in one area of life, you get better at it everywhere. The sound of nothing. Close your eyes for a second. What do you hear? If you're like most people, you hear constant noise, traffic, HVAC systems, electronics humming, people talking, music playing. Cowboys spent days hearing nothing but wind and hoofbeats. And that silence taught them something crucial: how to listen. Not just with their ears, with their entire being. They could sense danger before it appeared, feel a change in weather before the sky showed signs, know when their horse was getting tired before it stumbled. This wasn't magic. This was attention. Because when you remove all the noise, you start noticing everything else. The subtle things, the important things. We live in constant noise now. And I'm not just talking about sound. I'm talking about information noise, notification noise, option noise. We're drowning in noise every single day. And it's making us deaf to what matters. Cowboys understood that survival required clarity, and clarity required silence. Time to think, time to observe, time to just be. When was the last time you had real silence? Not sleep, not meditation, just nothing. No phone, no music, no podcast, just you and your thoughts. Most people can't handle 5 minutes of it, but that silence is where wisdom lives. It's where you figure out what actually matters. It's where you hear the voice that tells you the truth. Cowboys had hours of it every day, and it made them sharper, clearer, more certain. The distance between talking and doing. Cowboys didn't talk much. You ever notice that in old stories? They weren't giving speeches or explaining their plans in detail. They just did things. There's a reason for that. When you're barely surviving, you learn fast that talking doesn't keep you warm. Explaining doesn't feed you. Planning doesn't fix the problem. Action does. Modern culture has this completely backward. We celebrate people who talk well, who can articulate their vision, who can sell their ideas. And that's fine for some things, but we've taken it too far. Now we think talking about doing something is almost as good as doing it. Tell people your goals and you get congratulations. Post your plans on social media and you get likes. Talk about your dreams and people call you inspiring. But a cowboy would look at all that and ask one question: what did you actually do? Because they understood that the distance between talking and doing is where most dreams go to die. The person you could have become never shows up. The life you could have lived stays imaginary. The impact you could have made never happens. All because energy went into talking instead of doing. Cowboys didn't have that luxury. The work either got done or you suffered. It was that simple. And that clarity is exactly what we need to remember. Before we go further, make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next might change how you see everything. What breaking taught them. Everything a cowboy owned broke. Constantly. Saddles wore out. Boots fell apart. Ropes frayed. Tools bent. Nothing lasted. And here's what's wild. They saw this as normal. Not frustrating. Not a sign of poor quality. Just reality. So they learned to fix everything. Or work around it. Or make do without it. This taught them something we desperately need to learn. Resilience isn't about having things that don't break. It's about knowing what to do when they do. We live in a world where everything is designed to be replaced, not repaired. Your phone breaks? Buy a new one. Your shoes wear out? Throw them away. Something stops working perfectly? It's trash. This has made us fragile. We panic when things break because we don't know how to fix them. We feel helpless when systems fail because we've never had to work around them. Cowboys expected things to break. They planned for it. They built their skills around it. And ironically, this made them more confident, not less. Because when you know you can handle problems, you stop fearing them. When you know you can adapt, you stop needing everything to be perfect. Breaking things didn't weaken cowboys. It strengthened them. Every repair taught them something. Every workaround made them more creative. Every failure made them more capable. We've lost this. We expect everything to work perfectly all the time. And when it doesn't, we fall apart. The weight of what you carry. A cowboy could pack everything he needed to survive on one horse. Everything. Food, water, shelter, tools, clothes, weapons, all of it. And it had to be light enough that the horse could carry it all day. Strong enough to last for months. Simple enough that he could maintain it himself. This forced an interesting question every single day. What do I actually need? Not what's comfortable, not what's convenient. What do I need? Cowboys became masters at this. They knew the difference between essential and extra. They understood that every unnecessary thing they carried made them slower, weaker, more vulnerable. Now think about your life. How much of what you own do you actually need? How much is just weight you're carrying because you haven't questioned it? And I'm not just talking about physical stuff. How many obligations are you carrying that don't serve you? How many relationships drain you? How many habits slow you down? Cowboys traveled light because they had to. But here's what they discovered. Traveling light didn't just make survival easier. It made life better. More freedom, more flexibility, more focus on what actually mattered. We've gone the opposite direction. We accumulate endlessly. More stuff, more commitments, more complexity. And we wonder why we feel so heavy. The thing they never forgot. Here's what I want you to really understand. Cowboys weren't superhuman. They didn't have special genetics or magical abilities. They just lived in a world that required them to be capable. And because they had to be capable, they became capable. That's it. That's the whole secret. We live in a world that doesn't require capability anymore. You can survive just fine being helpless. Systems will catch you. Technology will solve problems for you. Someone else will handle it. So we never develop the skills. We never build the confidence. We never discover what we're actually capable of. And then when life gets hard, when systems fail, when help doesn't come, when we're on our own, we crumble. Not because we're weak, because we've never been required to be strong. Cowboys understood something profound. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. They trained every single day, not in a gym, not in a class, in life. Every problem was training. Every challenge was practice. Every day was a test. That's why they could handle anything, because they'd been handling things all along. What this means for you. So what do we do with all this? You're not going to become a cowboy. You're not going to ride horses through the wilderness or sleep under the stars every night. But you can remember what they understood. Start small. Learn one real skill. Not from YouTube, from doing. Start a fire without matches. Navigate without GPS. Fix something that's broken. Build something with your hands. Not because you'll need these specific skills, because the act of learning them changes you. You start noticing things again, paying attention, taking responsibility, becoming capable. And here's what happens. Life gets clearer. You stop feeling so helpless, so anxious, so dependent on everything working perfectly. Because you remember what cowboys never forgot. You're more capable than you think, more resilient than you know, more adaptable than you've been allowed to be. The modern world has convinced us we're fragile, that we need constant help, constant comfort, constant convenience. Cowboys proved that's a lie, not because they were tougher than us, because they had no choice but to discover their own strength. You have that same strength, you've just never been required to use it. The question that changes everything. I'll leave you with this. What would your life look like if you stopped waiting for perfect conditions and just started dealing with reality? If you stopped needing everything to work perfectly and learned to adapt when it doesn't? If you stopped depending on systems you can't control and built skills you can? That's what cowboys did. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. But here's the beautiful part. Once they did, they discovered something unexpected. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about living fully, about being present, about being truly alive. Because when you're capable of handling life, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you start actually living it. That's what we forgot. And that's what we need to remember. If this resonated with you, if it changed how you see things, leave a comment below. Tell me one skill you're going to learn. One thing you're going to stop depending on systems for. One way you're going to become more capable. Because the conversation doesn't end here. It starts here. Let's remember together what cowboys never forgot. We're stronger than we think. We just have to prove it to ourselves. Thanks for watching. Now go do something that scares you.